the channel. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to review the 2005 Turbo S roof equipped that you guys wanted to see so badly that I picked up a few months ago. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe. It helps us out a ton, right? And hit the notification bell so you can see all the great Porsche stuff we're doing. We're coming back online. As the US is coming back online, you're going to get more Porsche stuff. So go ahead and subscribe now. And we love you guys and enjoy the video. So, by popular demand, we are driving my 2005, exactly, Turbo S. They keep harassing me. The same two, whoever you guys are, I get DMs on them. Yeah, but in all seriousness, there has been a demand for, we don't normally like to do reviews on our own cars, but people have, especially from the 996 faithful, have wanted to see a review on this. So here we are. We're doing this, and we're doing it for you guys, and we're gonna make a good one, just like we do all the other ones. And
let's do it.
So some interesting things. A little bit of background of why I bought a 996, because that can be, the car itself is controversial in the Porsche world, as everybody knows. No need to go into depth behind that. There's tons of videos, including ourselves, on it. However, this particular, I was hunting a 996. Now, was I hunting this particular car? No, I didn't even know this car existed. And what I mean by that is, like, I knew a Turbo S existed. I mean that I didn't know that this particular spec and was available at the time. It was just kind of a seize the moment opportunity. I was looking, basically, full disclosure, for a 996 Turbo.
Turboed up.
Some colors I really didn't want. I thought I wanted speed yellow, then I kind of turned away from that. So I almost any color was on the gamut. I really would have enjoyed getting a white one with black interior.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That was a tough one to get. I found like one for sale at the time, but either way, you know, we'll talk about the ones that we lost or didn't get. But that's the journey it took me on the 996 path, really. Like, I was looking for a turbo. I came to that decision actually not too long before I bought this, because I was still on the fence with 996 GT3, 996 Turbo, didn't know which one I wanted. After further, you know, research and talking with friends that are really close to me, that know me really well, that have owned both. A good friend of ours at Swine 11 has owned, you know, the 996 Turbo, and he owns a 996 GT3 now. He's the one that actually recommended me a Turbo. I've driven Turbos, I've driven the GT3s. I kind of agreed with him just because it was so different. He's like, well, if you get a GT3, it'll be very similar to your 964, the way your 964 is set up with the rawness. Granted, there'll be a little bit of speed gap there, but that car's gonna probably do 85% of what that GT3 is gonna do already. And he's like, you don't really want to just double up on something you already have. It was just his recommendation. I know there's a lot of people that do, but he's like, just experience something different. I've never owned a turbo Porsche before, so I got a phone call from the guys in Miami about this particular car that was on consignment from a guy that had it in Miami, and it had lived in Miami with a collector for a while, and then this gentleman got a hold of it, and then he had it for a little bit and then wanted to consign the car. Well, I got a phone call from them offering the car before it even went to sale for the public, which was great of them. I was in my search at that point, but I just wasn't ready to pull the trigger. Nothing to do with the car, it was just a personal situation. I just was like, yeah, you know, I'm just not ready yet. I want to keep looking, see what's out. Well, long story short, it only took me 2 more weeks to make my decision. The more I thought about this car, the more I thought it was for me.
It was how special things.
Yeah, I think I knew about the Turbo S's. Again, you know, we're not all knowing in the Porsche world, and I think that's what makes us relatable. It's hard to know everything, but we do know a lot. So I did some research like anybody could do, and I figured out how special this car really was. I mean, I took their word for it. They knew what they had too. But I let it weigh on me for a few weeks. and I decided, you know, I wanted to get this '05 PTS in slate gray Turbo S coupe in manual that went to roof and has all the roof documentation. Now, it's not a roof VIN car, full disclaimer, but it did basically get almost everything else from roof.
Yeah,
It got the software, so essentially it was masquerading just as a Turbo S with roof R upgrades, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, we've taken it to another little bit bump up since then. We've taken that exhaust off that roof. I still have it, but it's super, super heavy. I think it weighed 58 pounds. We weighed
it was pretty.
The exhaust we're running from Soul Performance on it right now is weighing at like 23-ish pounds. So we saved 25 pounds-ish there, 35 pounds, excuse me. So that was great. It's a straight pipe system. Then we went with Marski tune. He gave me 2 tunes, like a summer tune and a winter tune for us down here. Obviously that gets really, really hot. So we want to make sure. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. But so we don't want to overheat the car, obviously. What makes some of this unique from a performance perspective, it's got the GT2 intercoolers and GT2 turbos.
Bigger.
If you guys didn't know, so which is nice. So it puts out a little bit more power. Eventually, I think we're going to need to upgrade the fuel pump, upgrade maybe the wastegates, and upgrade the intercoolers per Marski to push a little bit more boost and tune out of it, which we probably will. Eventually need to get the coolant lines pinned. They haven't been pinned yet. And then pretty much leave it alone at that. But with the tune that we're running at right now from a butt dyno, we're thinking probably in the mid 5s to the wheels, maybe a little bit higher. Maybe upper 5s, maybe 575 to the wheel.
Power,
yeah,
sure. It's a lot different from when we first picked it up.
And not that it was bad, you know, but it definitely wasn't me. You know me, obviously. Driving it, it just didn't make the right sounds. Now it makes all the turbo whistling because it's straight piped. It's very, very responsive with the tune. It's lightning fast. Running against my buddy Chad's 996, it has a lot of work done to it, and it pulls on his car, which makes me happy. So, but in all seriousness, why I picked this car is because it really is, in the Porsche world, I feel the best bang for the buck. You're getting turbo car power, prenage, all that kind of stuff for essentially NA money.
Oh, I mean that's a very good point. And we're not the first ones to make that point, but yeah, it's
no.
Once you feel it, that's the difference. Like, even people saying they don't like the headlights and everything, but once you feel the power this car makes, it's just something different.
Exactly. And I think it's nice too, because this has all the roof bits. It has the roof wing. It has a roof spoiler on it. It does have a little bit of a different look than a lot of just standard 996s. And not that bad. The 996s are bad in general, but we get it. We understand, like, where people talk about the headlights thing. Is it unattractive? I don't think that's the correct vernacular for it. I think it's just different, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people react to that differentness stereotypically.
Yeah. No change is the best.
Yeah, no opinion, where somebody else came up with something and said, this is not right, this is not good. And then somebody else who can't formulate their own opinion based off their own facts came along and said the same thing. Well, it's no good. It's still a Porsche. It still handles fantastically. I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a Porsche and you don't care what other people think and you like not spending an ass load of money, this is probably where you want to live at, right? Now, granted, the Turbo S was more than a 996 turbo, normal turbo. There is a bit of a premium there. But it's worth it, you know, when you have...
That's also good, though, too, because you can pick up a turbo versus a Turbo S.
Yeah. And the nice thing is you can get a turbo and you can get 95% of this car in a regular turbo than in a Turbo S. Yes, if you care about rarity, yes, you care about all those things, you probably want to go Turbo S just because it is a little bit more rare. It's rated from the factory at 444 horsepower, 457 foot-pounds of torque, which sounds pretty good. Actually, a lot of people seem to think that number's underrated because it essentially is a GT2.
You figure it's a little bit more to the wheels numbers versus to
Probably, yeah. I think it's more of that. I think they underdogged it a little bit because they didn't want it to be overshine the GT2
Yeah.
for selling purposes, but minus just having the rear axle like two-wheel drive instead of the all-wheel drive system, this is a GT2 essentially. You know, it has the seat in the back, which doesn't weigh that much, but anyways, I'm just saying, like, the DNA of it, the DNA of it's essentially a GT2. Now, with that being said, because it's a late production, most of the 05s were, so look at the VIN codes and the dates and the stamps on it. If you do go for an 05 GT2, Turbo S, the one sneaky neat thing I found in my research about them was, if you get one, it's in the later model year. This one was May of 05 when it came off the assembly line, which means it was handmade on the side, because during that time, 997s were traveling down the assembly line on the train. So this car was handmade with, basically, there's two ways to look at it, with leftover parts, which could have been garbage, or it got the attention of handmade of like old school Porsche, like how things used to be done when they stopped doing that in the 964. So oddly enough, my 964 was handmade. This 05 is handmade. So I didn't plan that. Yeah, I didn't plan that. It just kind of happened that way. But for all the reasons I mentioned previously is the reason why I felt this was a special car. Now, does it have to be a one-off to be a special Porsche? No, like, as long as you like it, that's all that really matters. But it did have a lot of curb appeal for me in the sense of, if I did ever need to move the car, it was special enough. So that's kind of how I always approached it. I want to experience the car. I knew it would be a great car. Essentially, this is a one of one. It's slate gray with black interior, sport seats.
Which you weren't sure about the slate gray at first.
I wasn't.
That's
yeah.
the thing.
Well, to be honest with you, and full disclaimer, like with the dealership, they didn't look into it either. Like when it verbally, like on the build sheet, it says slate gray. That's why actually I did the research on looking through the build sheet one in their photos. But when I asked them, they thought this was seal gray verbally.
Which is I mean, it's a common color and it looks close.
But it's funny because you look at our friend's car, it's seal gray, and you park this next to it, and there's a drastic difference.
Oh, one's super dark.
Yeah, because the seal gray is so much lighter than this. But then, anyways, that kind of put me over the edge. I was like, wait a minute, it's PTS. Okay, now you have my attention. Because I didn't want a seal gray, because I was like, everybody has seal gray. That was like the launch color. Not that it's a bad color, I just felt like that was such a common color with 996s. I just didn't want that. So anyways, so I did that, and this kind of, it turned into a one-on-one. I started going down that rabbit hole of like figuring this out. Okay, it went to roof. Okay, it has all the roof documentation. It's a Turbo S that was built in May of 2005, so it was hand built. It's probably one of the last ones to come off the assembly line. Oh, it's a one of 186 made for that calendar year. All right, so we're getting thinner and thinner and thinner to make this even more and more special. So I got to the point where I was like, yeah, this is the one. If I'm gonna buy a 996, granted, I would have loved to bought a GT2. I prefer a GT2, but I don't have GT2 money. I have Turbo S money. So that's how I ended up here, right? So that's the story behind this. And I do love it. So I've ownership probably about 2.5 months now. Granted, it was during the lockdown, so I've done a lot of personal drives. So I've actually been able to get pretty close to the car during that time frame.
Just you and the car.
Yeah, and it's wicked fast. And honestly, it's just not a point and shoot car. It handles very, very well. I went on a really technical drive with it probably about a month ago, and it did really good on old tires. So I put some new tires on it, ran through those pretty fast from the previous owner. They were on their last leg anyways. I was just trying to stretch them out.
So the all-wheel drive surprised you?
Yeah, honestly, like, I don't know if it's this particular model. Like, we've driven tons of all-wheel drive cars with Porsche, but never really like that technical as far as driving goes. I didn't really feel the front end, like, where as far as people say, like, well, I can feel it. You know, it's an 80-20 balance. You're barely feeling it. So, at least for me, I can barely feel it.
You might feel weight in the front, but you're not going to feel any blandedness.
It's not pulling, you know, I own a four-wheel drive truck. It's not like tugging. Like, you don't feel it's not like driving a four-wheel drive vehicle. The background story, we told you all that stuff. So driving impressions It's super direct, like you would expect any 911 to be. Just because it's a turbo and it doesn't make it any softer in the sense of, yeah, it's not GT setup, but it is nice.
Yours is on coilovers too.
Yeah, that's true. This is on PSS 10s. So from the passenger seat, obviously we'll get your driving impressions in a little bit. So far, what are you feeling from the driver's seat? How do you like it from the 996? I know you were in Chad's, so I mean, is it very similar?
Chad's is on springs at times, so I can't. There's no comparative back and forth. The springs I did now, like thinking back, they might have been a little bit more soft. This is still soft in a way, but compliant in every other way.
Yeah.
As far as it's being flat and feeling that you can feel that this car's got some stiffness, like it would handle well.
Yeah, and I enjoy this car a lot, and I know this sounds silly to say, of all the great things this car provides, AC is a big one.
Yeah, that was different. I mean, the car is like, oh, it's cool in here.
It's good AC. Which is a must where we live at in South Florida. I know it seems very trivial to say that because a lot of cars come with it nowadays and people don't think anything of it, but
driving an air-cooled car.
Yeah, and it's the trans gets really hot. That car gets warm really, really fast. I mean, you want to talk about like a sauna? Like that's what it starts to become in the summertime. So it's nice to have this alternative of driving this. Gears are awesome in this car. It's geared, feels like appropriately. It's not, the gearing isn't too tall. This is a 200 mile an hour car easy. It's a 6-speed, but it's that same rifleable action. It's not sloppy. Not that really any Porsche's gears, manual cars are. There's still a lot of feel. Clutch has good feel. It's a GT2 clutch, so it's not, anything out of control.
And it's hydraulically, isn't it?
Exactly, hydraulic assisted. Oh, see, this is like Porsche's.
I thought that guy was in Porsche colors, actually, like motorsport colors.
Yeah, so my driving impressions is it's an awesome bang for the buck. I enjoy every bit of it. I definitely think, I can't leave anything stock, so it doesn't matter, my opinion on it.
Got it, so.
Yeah, I think the opinions behind it is this car could definitely, if it's bone stock, could definitely use some livening up. Could use a tune. You don't need to get hardcore exhaust like me with straight pipes. You can still get a lot of the turbo whistling without that if you need to.
The stock one's okay, even like a bit of a stock one, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's power, but it's not like this.
So let's switch seats and let Aaron drive.
Let's do it.
Switch.
Yep, happens.
Hopefully Aaron will clutch this car like he did.
It's so easy.
996 video. If you want some comic relief, go watch that review.
Yeah. Thanks. Now this one's super. Since I've pre-driven once around 3 feet of driveway at the SWAC building, I think we're okay. So much lighter than Chad's.
Yeah.
Such a different.
Well, I think his car has the hydraulic assist deleted.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know. And I think that's what whoever owned the car, the previous owner to him, made it feel more of a GT car by doing that. So I don't know if that's actually a favor or a hindrance. I think it's just preference. Like anything, you can get used to something. So I think it really just depends. I mean, it's really heavy. It's a stage 2, I think. So
There's 2 or 3. And this is just, this is so nice. It's so comfortable.
It's the GT2 clutch with the standard hydraulic assist, like it would be in that car too. Like it. It's even compared to my 964, the clutch is super nice in this car. And what I mean by nice, it's not as heavy. Like you get a calf workout in the 964 clutch. Granted, it's an upgraded clutch too, but it's very mechanical compared to this. There's a little bit. You can tell there's an assist, which is fine. Like anything, like you get used to it. I don't think it's any less feeling. I think it's just a different feeling.
Yeah, I would agree with that because mine, the 997 is kind of heavy.
Yeah.
So the feel points are, you can definitely, when it's engaged, disengaged, and all that. This is a little bit of getting used to, but man, I can see where this could be dailyable.
Yeah, no, obviously I think that was the goal. I mean, you spend, I don't remember what this was retail. I want to say 140s, 160s, something like that. Like, don't quote me on that. I'm just saying at that time, it's probably going to be a hard sell to sell somebody a Turbo S that can afford it.
Yeah, I know. Inconvenience.
It's going to be like, this car is awful. Because remember, 05 guys, GT3s were still an uncommon thing for the U.S. as a whole. And the rawness of the car, especially from the Porsche, unless you're a super Porsche air-cooled person. But I'm saying if you're a new buyer, people just didn't get them. They don't have the fame they have now.
Exactly.
People are like, wait a minute, you want me to pay how much to have nothing?
I don't need to get less and pay more. That doesn't.
You're like, this is harder to drive and it costs how much money? You're like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No. I was looking for it. That's what I was hunting earlier. I was like, there's a lot of speed bumps on this road.
Yeah.
And Michael's car is super raised, as you can imagine. He has all those cars. But like you said, the shifting is super direct. It's a good feel. The clutch is cloud-like light, but enjoyable.
So far, have you felt like, even though this is the all-wheel drive system, the one we drove with Chad's was a 2-wheel drive conversion. Do you feel like, oh my God, I feel the front end, it feels so heavy. It feels like, oh my God, like how people over-exaggerate that whole situation. I don't really feel it. And actually, I have good hand feel. Like, it's not like it's something that I'm just disregarding and ignoring. I don't really feel it the way everybody, like...
In motion...
bitches and moans about it.
No, in motion, I can't tell. Slower speeds like that, you can feel a little bit of heaviness, but I'd have to drive this again to really know if that's just... But that's a slow turn with it.
Yeah, and that's generational too, because each generation it changes some. With the 997, obviously that's a little bit more engaging as far as I've heard a lot more. You could definitely tell that car's a front wheel assist on power as well, but that way. But yeah, I think maybe because this is essentially like a 993 C4S system with just a little bit more technology. Because the fact that you could take this front end out in this car without doing too much to it shows you how kind of archaic it is.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, don't mess with a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So it had to be such a crazy time for the engineers and finance guys to make something brand new, but then not lose what they had, the 911s.
It's almost kind of like during the time frame, like the early Hesketh system through GTRs, like the ones we didn't get in the States, like the R32s, for all you JDM people that watch us out there. It's kind of like that. When you just pull that fuse, like that would be that basically you taking that front end out. You're disabling this. That's how mechanical it is. So it can be done. I don't think I'm going to do it in this car. It's not really the point of this, but never say never, right?
It's true. You might be like, you know what? I need that 2-wheel drive feel.
Yeah, who knows? In a few years, I may get bored with the way it's set up and I'll just start changing things to change them. I doubt it, but who knows? Speaking of which, we'll go to the mod, like additional mods to this car, like I said earlier when I was talking. Probably upgraded fuel pump at some point, upgraded wastegates.
All for power.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do that stuff.
And then upgraded, intercoolers. And then that's pretty much, and then a retune, and then that's pretty much it for as far as that goes. And then obviously like preventative maintenance, just keep going that way. Preventative maintenance, coolant line pins, and pretty much that's about it. And cosmetically, I have a steering wheel on the way.
So
I'm gonna probably do yellow belts.
if you were looking for just a normal turbo, what would you be looking for? Like,
Well, I was looking at one. There was one on Renlist that I saw that I was going to buy that was really, really juiced up. Like, it had the front end swap already done to conversion to two-wheel drive. Actually, it was our buddy's old car that built it, Aaron from Last Era on Instagram. It was his old car. It was a 700 horsepower build, two-wheel drive. It was set up really well. It had a Gambala wing and front bumper. Had Fisk wheels on
That's
it.
your favorite interior
Had a
too,
cage.
right?
Yeah, I was not nuts about the dove gray interior on it, but
if it's not black, Mike doesn't like it.
not necessarily. Like, I like red interior too. I'm trying to look long term, I guess, and where I'm at in life, as far as like vehicles that I keep, and then also I look at it. I don't want to own that just because if you're buying, why not buy what you want? I guess.
Yeah, it's true.
And I just don't, and to each their own. There's some people who love, like our buddy Mel loves tan interior. Okay, that's his thing. For me, aesthetically, I don't like it. It just doesn't, I don't like that look. I get too much of like a dad feel or something like, and not that being a dad is a bad thing, but I'm not there in my life.
I think Mel's too hard in the cat dad life.
Yeah, I'm not that guy, I'm not wearing pleated khakis and stuff. Like, I feel like that's what that is, man, and I just
resisting it at all.
And if I'm hurting feelings, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. It's just, it is the way it is. Like, I know it's a perception thing. It's just the way I feel when I see that kind of stuff, like aesthetically with my eyes. I just don't like the way it looks. I mean, how do you feel about that stuff?
I'm just not a tan fan. I can't explain that it's a related.
I just feel like it doesn't feel motorsport.
Yeah, I guess you know what it feels. It feels like GT style.
Yeah.
The only time I think a tan is warranted is maybe in other makes that make their car in red.
Yeah. Where it has a horse in their logo,
yeah,
right?
It's similar, of course, but otherwise. So if we talk back to this, I like the feel of the steering. There is weight up front.
Yeah.
Better than Chad's. Like that, I can feel that Chad's felt not numb, not that there wasn't feeling.
This car's
like
just floaty.
Floaty, exactly. That's how I would explain it. But that could have been due just to the springs as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he doesn't have the full. He's missing.
He didn't have the coilovers first.
Yeah, he's missing a little bit. Well, he needs the uprights too. He needs the GT2 uprights. So a little bit of background on that. It's not just taking this out. Like you gotta put the uprights in it too, because if you want it to be GT2-esque, you gotta do the whole. Like you make a left. You gotta make it right, because otherwise it is gonna suffer in certain areas. You can't just like take it out and you'll be good to go. You got to get the GT2 uprights. You probably should get coilovers. Obviously, you got to get the front end realigned, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, for what this car is, I love it. Do it.
I'm liking it.
And 2.5 months. Do I have buyer's remorse on this car? No, not at all. Will it ever set in? I doubt it. It would have already set in by now if I felt that way about it.
Day 2.
Yeah.
Bro, I don't know.
You know when you know. Like, I would have known on the drive home if I didn't like it. I liked it. The only thing I didn't like, I already corrected on it. I felt like it was a little down on power from what I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Not that it had a lack of power. It had plenty of power. Yeah. But because I drove Chad's car.
That was a mistake. Yeah. Like if you've never driven one, the power's there. It's linear. To a point, it's kind of slow, and you wouldn't know any of that. You would just know that it has tons of power when you have the stock one. If you drive an aftermarket one, that's when you get ruined. Yep. That's when you know you're, all right, I gotta get a tune.
Yep.
I gotta chop off this exhaust, I gotta hear some.
I mean, the minute when I picked it up, not that I wasn't happy, I was super happy, but mentally I'm already comparing it to the tuned car, the car that had straight pipes on it.
Of course.
And it's not a fair comparison because it is night and day. I mean, at the end of the day, after a tune, and the proper straight pipe exhaust on this car, you're gaining at least, at least 100 horsepower. If not more, is what I was going to say. If
Conservatively.
Not more.
And safely.
And that's not just paper horsepower, that's feel horsepower. Like you're putting another 100 horsepower down on the ground, which is a significant amount compared to what it was.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it really is one of those things where, and that's the nice thing about turbo power, as you guys may or may not know, you can really squeeze a lot out of it. And an A car is tons and tons of money for little bits of horsepower.
Yeah, to make more power out of it, yeah.
And it's turbo car, a little bit of money makes a ton of horsepower. I mean, it's forced induction. That's what happens. But I'm glad I have both, to be completely honest with you. I love because they do so many different things. And big shout out to my buddy West. He was right when he goes, you should get it because it is so different. He's like, you should get it because your 964 is all of these things, and this car is all of these things. And it has its own unique sound too. That's the nice part. It has the whistling, with the straight pipe on it. That Metzger engine sounds so good. Obviously derivative of the GT1. If you don't know, that's where the father of this car essentially is. With all of these Metzger engines, that motor lives in there. The crazy thing is it's faster than Chad's car.
But it feels just
planted.
Yeah, that's different. I'd like to drive. We need to have a part 2 of Chad's car with the coilovers.
Yeah.
Just to see that. Have you been in his car recently?
We should do a dual run together.
Oh wow! I didn't realize how.
That's a lot of speed, really fast.
Wow. That's like 3/4 in.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Oh, the car will do 200 all day.
Yeah, unbelievable.
No problem. And not even have a hard time doing it. It's a lot scarier when you're in the passenger seat and you're not the one in control. I think that's just a natural thing for anybody who's like a passenger. Yeah, it gets down, that's for sure. So, we want to thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the Turbo S. Everybody wanted to see.
I enjoyed making it, it was good.
Yeah, it always leaves a smile on your face, that kind of power. And we had a great day of filming. Don't forget to subscribe. It genuinely helps us out tons. We love providing the content for you. So show us some love and go ahead and subscribe. Love chatting with you guys in the comments as well. Hit the notification bell. And if you didn't know, we also podcast every Thursday on every podcast platform. So we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.